Alright, we've got 3 packages. Well, today is December, you know. These were last week's releases, technically, because that's what I do. So, of course, you can expect these to be a lot of Eastern Star Discotheque stuff. That one's not one. Cool. That one's actually pretty cool. Let's turn it up in case you were curious. That's more like what I predicted. And it's kind of good that Sentai has steelbook versions of some well-known stuff. But yeah, let's begin. So first of all, I can't even read this. Maybe that's Groizer? Groizer? Okay, I'm actually not sure which of those it is. Let's see. It probably says in a better way somewhere on the back. This plastic is being really annoying. It doesn't help that this thumb is a little, you know, that thumbnail is a little short. Okay, well, let me see from the back. That's an I, so Groizer X. That is an X, okay. Sure. Region A, Japanese with English subtitles, which I'm not surprised. This is a 26 episode in standard definition, probably on one disc. Different underneath the slipcover, that's always good. Go. There we go. And while I'm not the biggest mecha fan, I do appreciate the fact that it sort of feels like Disco Star Eastern Tech is mopping that up. Sgt Frog seasons, was it 5 through 7? 5th, 6th, and 7th seasons. 153 episodes, standard definition. Probably on more than one disc. There we go. Alright, anything to note on the back? Japanese with English subtitles only. Focus camera. Okay, there we go. 153 episodes on 3 discs. Probably 1 disc per season. Very nice. Always like it when it's different underneath the slipcover. See, does this actually say anywhere on there? This says disc 1, season 5. Let's see, this one says disc 2, season 6. And then last but not least, we have disc 3, season 7. And let's see, we had art. Cool beans, cool beans. Next up, we have one where I wasn't quite sure if this was anime. Humanoid Monster Bem. But I'm guessing it is, mostly because it's a Disco Star Eastern Tech release. And I bet if we look in the back here, it's a Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. And I'm not 100% surprised. It was just that I couldn't immediately tell from the art style. I mean, it feels a little more obvious taking a look at it like that. Oops. What the fuck? What the fuck? That's intriguing. So 2 discs. It's kind of an intriguing looking background. Kind of hard to see without taking the discs out. This isn't SD on BD, so how many episodes is this? 24 episodes on 2 discs, 26 episodes, so 13 episodes a disc. Which is still a little compressed, but it's interesting because it does mean that it's not like the SD on BD stuff, like those 2 things were. Intriguing. Next up we have Giant Gorg. Trying to think if the name sounds familiar. Not sure. We'll just take the plastic off and take a peek at the back first. Japanese with English subtitles. 26 episodes on 2 discs. Region A. Different underneath this, or same underneath the slipcover. So this is apparently one they decided not to do that for. Okay, that's a world map. Okay. Of some sort. Neat. And last but not least, we have Parasyte the Maxim. A show that I've mentioned some of my reservations about some of its kind of its philosophical approach to certain things. But it's very entertaining despite that. Let's see, I think we take that off. For anybody that's not aware, Region A, sub and dub options. I guess, okay, there we go. So the premise is definitely one that's inspired by The Thing. And probably John Carpenter's The Thing more than The Thing from Another World. Part of me wonders if actually it's highly inspired by the original short story, which actually gave an original form for The Thing, or did it? Not sure. Okay, this one I have to dig these out to even get an idea what the background image even is. Okay. Because that seems to be a bit of a more distinctive thing. But yeah, the trick is they kind of wanted it to be something where somebody was half the thing, half not the thing, and the way the thing works in the thing would make that impossible. But they have their own interesting different rules for this, and their exploration for that, for some of what it means, some of what it implies. And yeah, like I said, it's not philosophically the best, but it is still entertaining and interesting and fun and a good series. Anyways, here's this week's physical anime collection update. So I don't know about y'all, but I had a pretty exhausting week, and it's not because of any specific thing, I guess. Just mostly, I mean, Thanksgiving was obviously there, and I did spend time doing that, but I was also just really exhausted this week. And there were some things that I ended up having to do. I don't remember mentioning last week, but yeah, I got the new washing machine, and I think I probably mentioned last week that I was going to have to do that I had done that. It got delivered just fine. It's not in the cubby hole yet, but there's some things I need to try to do to maybe get it all the way in there. That's stuff. For anime, let's see. I'll Become a Villainess, that will go down in history, episode 9. I'm trying to remember what specifically happened in this episode. I think we learned some very interesting information. I think we saw something like that happen. But I don't remember everything. I vaguely recall enjoying it. Like, maybe it's not doing the super awesome stuff, but it was still... I remember it being fun. Let's see. I guess I discovered this week that ReZero Season 3 was probably on a 2-month hiatus. So I guess we'll start seeing more episodes sometime next year. Guess we'll have to see. Do our Damsel Conquers the Dragon Emperor. I have episode 8 on here. Whatever the latest episode is, I watched it. I think it was actually a very neat and very interesting follow-up to the stuff that got set up in the previous episode. There's something about it that's just nice. I enjoyed it enough that I kind of felt like rewatching more scenes from the whole series, so I kind of did. Poked around. Very nice. Lone of Life in Another World, episode 10. Like I said, the big problem right now is, there's not really a end goal. There's current goal stuff where it's just like, okay, yeah, this is kind of interesting. It's interesting how it's setting itself up for a finale that's a potential season finale, probably. Nothing about it feels season finale, but I'm interested in what they're setting up for the end of the show. Like, yeah, for a lot of these shows, like since this was episode 10, a lot of these shows are getting closer to end. So I guess it's interesting to see how I feel as they march their way that way, I guess. I guess the latest episode of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon got delayed a week, maybe? I mean, I don't think it was, like, unknown that it would be delayed a week. I just never took a look at the times to find out. But anyways, yeah, no episode there. Goodbye Dragon Life, episode 9. It's okay stuff, but it feels a little convenient, convoluted. Kind of similar to my complaint about the design for the demons. Like, no one of them is wrong or bad, but it sort of feels inconsistent. Which is interesting because, like, you take something like Freerun, which had demons in it, and there does seem to be something that feels different about certain kinds, but they also still feel similar, and they all just have really neat designs. I can't think of one that wasn't neat. But yeah, for this one, there's that element, but there's, okay, all this stuff got set up and all this stuff is happening, and it's okay. But I guess some of the problem is elements of it don't feel like, I guess they're contributing a whole lot to the main story. So, like, the title of the story is, Goodbye Dragon Life, and the setup is our main character is a resurrected dragon. So you kind of want the story to be related to stuff about that. And his engagement in this demon stuff is that. But let's take the other stuff. It's like, well, that lady, I guess, got a little story that kind of relates. One of the characters he cares about is there, but it's maybe not exactly about him. Her struggles are not necessarily about him, I guess. And then they have the plant girl, who, she's a really neat design. It's just that, why do we care about her portion of this story from a story perspective? And it really just seems to be an excuse for the anime to have two character designs that are like, yeah, they're pretty cool. They just, because they feel I guess because the designs just feel like they were put out there and aren't thematically appropriate or in line or something like that. It feels like it's just kind of forced in there, sort of, just kind of conveniently put there, as opposed to a natural part of the world, I guess. And that might just be me, but that's kind of what I feel. And do I have anything else to say? I did want to say, since I mentioned all that stuff, and I mentioned Freerun, Freerun, I think that's a really good job. So, like, the title of the show is Freerun, so not only do you have a main character that you're introduced to in the first episode, she's the titular character. So it's like, it's about her. And that's a really good example. You know, I've been rewatching elements of it. It's like, okay, you know that part where Stark, we were introduced to him and he had that big battle? And that was a big moment for him. You know, in that episode where they introduced him, or was it the 2 episodes where they introduced him? But it's interesting because not only is that like good storytelling for him, but from a thematic perspective, you're like, that really is about him, but it is also about our titular character Freerun, because, you know, it's her commenting, observing, discussing things related to Stark and Eisen, his mentor. It's just like, she's the one kind of bridging that gap for us, the audience. And she's also the one kind of in charge of that battle when she makes certain calls that are just like things he didn't expect, but it's just like, this is her introducing us to him and his great achievements. And Fern, she does a lot of great stuff on her own. I mean, I know I complain about her, but the truth of the matter is I think she kind of works out in her. I don't like her. So when I say I don't like her, I don't mean I don't like her design, I don't like her voice, I don't like her character or character design or story. I just don't think I would actually be able to be friends with her in real life or something like that. I mean, really that would come down to how much I can just tolerate her being petty. But I complain about that, but she was still great. And it's really easy to see how she's about Freerun as well, even though there's a lot of show that's about how important she is, but her importance is tied intrinsically to Freerun, where Freerun is you know, the main character, but also Fern's mentor. So we get a lot of insight about Freerun through the things that Fern does. And it's interesting because there's other moments where it's like, okay, well, here's a part where Stark had this really excellent battle with a demon, and that came to a resolution. It's like, okay, was that about Freerun? That one is a bit separated from that, but it does still feel like, okay, we're getting a good feel for their power levels, how they work together, and maybe some insights into the heroes. So it's weak, but it still sort of feels like it's all done for the purpose of setting up the main character. And Goodbye Dragon Life has elements that are just like, okay, well, now they're about to finally get to that big fight, which, if that's supposed to be the end of this show, it could be. There's only 3 episodes left, if any. I mean, if there's 2 episodes left, that would make a lot of sense, but it's like, they're not going to do anything big outside of this, which is unfortunate because I'm not quite sure what sort of theming it has felt like it's had. But I digress. I digress a lot, apparently. Dan to Dan, episode 9. Oh yes, we had the action stuff sort of set up last time, and a lot of... Yeah, this episode was mostly interesting action-y stuff. It feels relevant, like there is some theming going on, maybe, that I'm not picking up on. I don't necessarily think about it too hard. And that could be why for other anime, maybe other people really like them, said, Giga, you doofus. Goodbye Dragon Life does have some theming, you're just not seeing it. And that would be fair. I'm watching a shit ton of stuff, so I might be doing this to myself. But, you know, I don't feel it for Dan to Dan, but I think it's enjoyable. I do kind of hesitate a little bit to fire up an episode, but every episode just kind of works smoothly. Even though, like I said, a lot of the characters are just insufferable. Although, I guess because this one was a lot of action-y stuff, it's easy to forget some of that. But, overall, good series, fun series. Is it setting it up for big crescendo or finale? Not sure yet. Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online Season 2 Episode 9. I guess we see it doing its thing. It's okay. It's okay. Not sure what else to think about it. This episode. I ended up not watching episode 9 of Magie Lumiere. Since I've been low energy, it's just like, do I feel like I have the energy to watch it or not? I'm not sure, so it's kind of teetering there on the edge of I might not finish it. they're in the middle of something, and it's a bit curious, but it's like, this gets back to that theming thing I said, where it's like, okay, this episode actually seems to be about another character at the company, or at least these 2 episodes seem to be mostly about that, which is fine, but I'm not sure if I feel like, to me, if it was doing something from a story that was really good, it would be somehow our main character brings out a better side of him than he had. Like, maybe he was already great, and then because of her, somehow they work together and she becomes spectacular. But it seems to be more about just his history and how he's pretty incredible on his own, but maybe there's reasons why he's been overlooked. It's not bad, but it doesn't feel that cohesion, that coherence that you watch Freer and you're like, yeah, here's a nameless character who's testing out if Freeran could be easily, if they could easily use bound or hypnosis magic on her. It's like, she kind of has pretty thick defenses, and oh my god, that's just such a funny little scene. All these little things about it. It's just like the way Freeran reacts to it is so very Freeran. The way Fern reacts to it is that lovable, pouty kind of person that I've said things about. But it's fun to watch. It's a good. That's such a well-designed show. And Magie Lumiere, I think I'm not feeling it as much, which is unfortunate because I felt like the elements were there, but it almost feels like it's getting a little too distracted in its world building, which to me kind of suggests that the world building I guess just has that problem with it. Dragon Ball Daima, episode 8. I think it was overall a pretty fun episode. I'm trying to think what to comment specifically about, but, you know, it's been an episode that I think we've been leading up to for a couple of episodes, and what they did was fun, entertaining. It wasn't drawn out. They didn't make it drag on. And at the same time, gave us this, gave us that, gave us funny, make you smile kind of chats before, during, and after. It's just kind of some of the same lovable stuff that I would say that, you know, maybe Dragon Ball Super also made super common. Good stuff. Demon Lord Retry R, episode 10. Same as everything up till this point. Can I think of anything about what it might be trying to set up for an end? I guess they're setting that up for an end of the season thing. And that some of that setup is okay, but it just feels like it does random stuff, I guess. I did manage to finish episode 8 of The Healer Who Was Banished from His Party, and it makes even less sense. The philosophy and the logic of things that people said are just fucking stupid or stucking foopid or something like that. I don't know. Like I said last time, there's just this fundamental problem where it's like, okay, yeah, you could make an argument that how can we choose to do something because we don't know that it'll necessarily make things better. It's like, yeah, okay, and then why are you stopping other people from doing things? Because, you know, that just makes you a fucking hypocrite. Because you're telling these people they're doing something they think will do, and it's like, well, how dare you? The guild may actually do something about that. Which he didn't exactly say, but there's the implication there with his authority and talking to him like that. It's just like, fuck you, asshole, you dumbass motherfucking piece of shit. And now we can find out, well, I say that now as in like, I would have found it out if I had finished the episode. The dumb son of a bitch got experimented in the same way. It's like, oh, but in the end that worked out. Well, he didn't even say that. He was just talking like a fucking idiot. Now, there's an element of it that's, okay, he's given the main character hints that there's insidious shenanigans going on. Main character isn't necessarily doing anything about it, which is fine. But it's... yeah. Again, I'm curious where they're going with the main story, and they seem to be setting up something to happen that will be a, hopefully, series finale. Because, well, I would like the characters and the setting to do some of the right stuff. It's just not doing stuff with them. Oh well. I'm maybe not. I'm an episode behind, but maybe not completely giving up on that. Demon Lord 2099, episode 8. I absolutely loved it. So if episode 7 could have been a potential ending to the series, then episode 8, okay, yeah, I guess that's a reasonable follow-up, and it's not as stuck in the same thing it was doing as before, and it's staying very fresh and fun. Our main character, so basically, this is an excuse for them to have transferred to a magic school. It's just like, okay, well, when the characters kick ass and they transfer to a school, that's potential for fun shenanigans. And I'd say they nailed it. Like, it's hard to say that's necessarily some power fantasy sort of stuff, but it has those same elements where we're going to measure magic. But, you know, our main character is very aware, but also just funnily energetic, I guess. So like the way he introduces himself is fun, and him looking at it's like, you know, if I do that, this device will break. Oh, it's okay. That's impossible. There's no way this device. Pushing Nani and Machina being there and reacting to that as well was just great. You know, it was a fun episode. I'd say a good start to a second arc. So I've appreciated the show. I'm sure not everybody has. I don't think the rating is, oh, everybody likes it, but I've been really appreciating it. Reincarnated Aristocrat, Season 2, Episode 21. We had that happen, which was, I think, good, touching aristocrat sort of stuff. I think if you've watched it up to this point, you probably would enjoy that sort of stuff. Because the show, you know, if you didn't enjoy that style of the show, maybe it comes off as too... Maybe it would come off as too convenient, cheesy, something like that. I think there's a risk and possibility of it feeling that way. And this episode has some of that too, but it's been there since the beginning of the show, and I think it works fine. It's maybe not the best show out there, but it's still pretty great, I would say. Let's see, The Most Notorious Talker. Alright, this was episode 10, so this one's probably going into what the end of the season, series, or core. Probably not a season finale, but a core or season finale. I'd say it's a fun setup. Again, one of the things about the show that's been nice is it's a little bit brutal. It's got some brutal edge to it, and our main character has just the right amount of interestingness. And his interaction with these other people, I would say, was actually pretty good. And what they've set up for what will probably be, again, the finale of this portion of time, seems decent enough and could be actually quite interesting. Especially if they bring that into play, which they're setting up for either something that'll happen in this season or this core, or it's going to happen in the next one. I guess we'll have to find out, but entertaining enough. Spirit Chronicles, Season 2, Episode 9. I guess an okay enough thing. Main character kicking a lot of butt. Certain things set up. I am very curious what the next bit of setup will, or the next bit of stuff after the setup that this is done while things have been happening happens. I know that's a really convoluted way to say it, but yeah, it's okay. Doesn't feel as good as Season 1. And then finally, Ari Ferretta from Commonplace to World's Strongest, Season 3, Episode 8. A continuation of what the previous episode did. A very interesting attempt at something. I'm not sure if it executed it perfectly, but it definitely is an idea that I've not seen played around with, at least a whole lot. And yeah, if there's anything wrong with it, it's like I'm not 100% sure of if what they set up feels like that's what actually happened, but they at least did a good enough job that it was very entertaining. And I don't know how to say more than that without spoiling the episode, but yeah, entertaining, fun stuff. Alright. So there's my blabbering stage done with. Do I have anything else to really talk about? I guess Dead by Daylight, the new killer, is released. I haven't played as her or against her. I mean, technically I fired her up to try out a couple of tests, which means that I won't be able to see some of the you're going up against this killer stuff. But for the most part, I got her to P3, and I haven't gotten the survivor to P1 yet, but she is like in the high 40s. She's really, really close. I might have gotten her the last perk she needs to have all the perks at least. But otherwise, low energy means I'm not playing too much. Firing it up here and there. But yeah, the unfortunate thing is I really, really like the design of the new character. Sorry, the new killer. The new survivor is actually pretty neat. I wouldn't say that she's like a personal favorite, but I really appreciate that she does feel like she adds something new to there. I mean, there's some overlap with other survivor concepts, I think. Mostly some of the skins they might have, but it's not a perfect one-to-one. She really does feel like something different, like something that somebody would play as her, because yes, this is a unique thing that I've been looking forward to and haven't been able to get so far in Dead by Daylight. And for the killer, I really like, again, her design. I like the idea of her power, but the execution of it, the way you do it, that's, I've been watching people, and yeah, it looks like it's buggy at best. At worst, it's impractical. And so people would only play as her for a limited subset of reasons. Hopefully, Behavior does find some balancing ground in order to make that work, I guess. Yeah, because I think she's a little overtuned. To kind of give an idea, so her power has two modes. One is a search mode, which can find survivors, but it's not really tell the dog to search. You're telling the dog, go to that specific place. And the dog goes to that specific place and doesn't really do anything. Now, if somebody's too close to the dog along the way, they could be marked with hound sense, although it's not immediately obvious to me that hound sense is inevitably a horrible thing. Probably, maybe not even a bad thing. It's at least a not good thing. Hard to say for certain, but really for the most part, if you're using it, I think you're probably using it to, for the increased speed to get like across the map or something like that. So in theory, that's a good thing. That's a increased map traversal, kind of. It doesn't work perfectly because of bugs, but okay. The other thing is it has a chase mode, which doesn't really chase. It's shoot it out in one narrow direction and doggy be dumb. Like, it's really neat when you manage to hit a survivor, and you can redirect the dog once, so you can like make it turn a corner or come back at a V angle to trick a survivor. But it's pretty impractical from what I can tell, and it also has certain problems where sometimes it can grab a survivor, but it accidentally pulls the survivor away from you so fast that the survivor's going faster than running, or maybe at the speed of running, so it doesn't work out. And I guess the problem is, if you think about that, so the idea is she sends the dog out, the dog grabs onto a survivor and holds them in place so she can hit them. Now that's kind of good. That's almost kind of reminiscent of Pinhead. Now, if you think about it, Pinhead's power, it's a high-risk, low-reward. The idea being that it's high-risk because you'll shoot it out, and people who get really good with it can just nail survivors because they can predict where a survivor's going to be, make the chain appear there, hit them without the chain moving at all, and worst case, you maybe shoot at the ground so that you're not delayed too much. But, the low reward comes from the high risk comes from you shoot, you miss. There's some level of jankiness to that, and you will lose time if you miss. And the low reward is you don't get a guaranteed damage state. There's an add-on that can make sure survivor gets damaged, but you're not going to be able to down a survivor with it. So, it's a low reward. It gives you a chance to potentially catch up to a survivor and make a distance between tiles not as productive as the survivor hoped, or the loop the survivor is in, they're not able to get around it in time this time. It gives you just a little bit of potential distance if you hit that can make or break a whole lot. Now, if you think of that, he's high risk, his M2 power is high risk, low reward, but he makes up for that with his cube power, which on its own is really good slowdown. Like, if the survivors ignore it, then they all get bothered by it constantly. They can no longer make progress, and they're pretty much giving up the game to a certain degree by trying to do that. So one survivor always has to do that, and if they're not perfectly coordinated, maybe two survivors end up doing that, and yeah, that ends up so we've kind of got a parameter where his power is high risk, low reward. But his passive power is great. So if we compare that to Houndmaster, she grabs somebody with a dog, that person gets held in place and she gets to go up and hit them. And it does a better job of closing loops and stuff. So it means, okay, she gets the basic hit in, so I'd say it's about a moderate reward, kind of middle of the level. Like, it's not like high reward, like, oh, you managed to hit somebody with Billy's chainsaw, which is a one hit down. No, she's in the middle. You're allowed to progress the survivor through another health state if you do it. Now the question is it a high risk? I've seen some people describe it as such, but I can't help but feel like it's actually a super high risk. Part of the reason for that being that you can't do the thing with Pinhead where you deliberately spawn the chain where you think the survivor is going to be, and then hit the survivor, and then almost guarantee a hit doing that. You still have to send it out and maybe redirect it, and it becomes super high risk because I think she loses way more ground than Pinhead trying to do the same thing with his pound. So I would actually call it a super high risk mid reward, which makes it only on par with Pinhead's, because both the risk reward stuff just shifted up a level, but she doesn't have his passive, and his passive is great, whereas she doesn't have a passive. So you could say, well, does she have a better cross map? And the problem is it isn't exactly, and it completely interferes with her trying to use her chase power. So to me, it's kind of obvious when you look at it that way that she's a little overtuned. Possibly they need to do something to make it easier for her to hit with the dog, but it's tricky because some of the ideas, like that have been done for other killers, would probably make her OP. So if she managed, like, let's say the dog, well, let's talk about the best case scenario where the dog, if it sees a person directly in front of it, it'll follow that person. Sort of like Knight. Well, it's too fast, it'll definitely catch them, she'll definitely get the hit in. At that point, she's way overpowered. What if you make it something less than that? What if the dog shoots out, they kind of have a V to them, so if the survivor's in front of them, but there's a direct path between them and that's the survivor within the V, close to the center, maybe they will turn slightly. That already actually makes them a lot better. May actually make it overpowered. Or maybe not. It's really hard to say. Because another possibility is, what if the redirect just auto-aims, instead of you switching view to the dog, the auto-aim tells the dog, keep going, and the dog just automatically snaps towards the nearest survivor and then grabs on them. So you send it out, and the dog goes, you just one click and the dog goes, chink, chunk. that may not balance out their power. It may still be OP. So it's kind of hard. Little tweaks would make her OP. And it's really unfortunate because, like I said, I really love the character design. But I just haven't had the energy to play much in general. I just made sure I dumped all the blood points I needed to get the head start on everything. Made sure I completed this page in the tome. When Bone Chill comes out, winter stuff comes out, you know, I'll make sure I'll be doing some of that. How much, I don't know, but some of that for sure. Anyways, I'm rambling a bit, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure how many people actually like this part, but that's why I put the cool anime unboxing stuff at the very beginning. And I try to talk about the series I've watched on higher priority, because I figure this is the stuff y'all don't care about. But y'all call whatever y'all want. It's perfectly fine for you to not like it, because I don't know if I would watch my own content. Anyways, yep, that's the babbling stuff. Here we are, last month of the year. Y'all, have a nice week.